You think the day beats you. You think the tasks beat you. You think the world is too heavy. But listen, the first thing that defeats you is not the world. It is the morning. The hardest war you fight is not in the office, not under the barbell, not out on the street. It happens in silence, in the dark, before anyone else is awake. It happens in the 3 seconds between opening your eyes and deciding whether you will rise or retreat. In those first seconds, there is no audience, no applause, no praise. Just you, a bed that wants to keep you, and a mind that learned it can stop you simply by speaking first. Your feet haven't touched the floor yet, but your mind is already negotiating. 5 more minutes. You need more rest. You can start later. The phrases change, the tone changes, but the purpose never does. All of it exists to keep you still. Soft thoughts. Same master, your resistance. Morning is when resistance is strongest, because morning is when your identity is completely exposed. No coffee to sharpen you, no phone to distract you, no music to drown the noise. Just you, your breathing, your thoughts, and the weight of the choice to get up or collapse back into comfort. The bed is not just soft, it is strategic. It is where yesterday's version of you still feels safe. The you who chose ease over effort. The you who said tomorrow instead of now. The you who broke promises and called it bad timing. The mattress remembers every time you stayed, so when you try to leave, it pulls. You don't lose the morning because your body is incapable. Your body can stand. Your body can walk. Your body can move. You lose the morning because your mind is untrained. You have taught it that if it complains loudly enough, if it throws enough excuses at you as soon as you wake, you will obey. Every time you stay in bed, you confirm a story. I delay. I avoid. I fold. You never speak those words out loud, but you carve them silently into the structure of your identity. And the next morning, your mind reads that carving and plays it back to you like a script you didn't know you were writing. Morning resistance isn't random. It is not just being tired. It is the old self trying to survive another day. The self that prefers comfort over clarity, short-term relief over long-term respect. The self that would rather feel a little better now than become someone stronger over the next 10 years. The first decision you make after waking controls the tone of your entire day. Stand up with force, and everything that follows feels like a continuation of strength. Stay down in negotiation, and everything that follows feels heavier than it really is, because you've already tasted your own surrender. Most men wait for motivation to move. They lie in bed trying to think their way into action. They wait for a surge of energy, a perfect feeling, a clear mood. They don't understand that movement is what creates motivation. Action first, feeling later. That is how warriors live. You can lie to other people about who you are. You can lie to the world about your discipline. You can speak about goals, ambitions, visions, plans. But the morning doesn't listen to speeches. It exposes the truth. It shows you, without filters, who is in charge. You or your resistance. You are not being asked to win the whole day at once. You are not being asked to solve your entire life before sunrise. You are being asked to win a single decision. To choose standing over sinking, rising over rolling over, identity over comfort. This is the real battlefield. And in the next chapter, you'll see exactly why resistance strikes so hard the moment your eyes open. You don't struggle in the morning because something is wrong with you. You struggle because resistance chooses the moment you are most undefended. When you first open your eyes, your mind is half asleep and half awake. That fragile state is exactly where resistance strikes. Before discipline rises, before clarity returns, before you remember who you want to be, The morning is a psychological ambush. No momentum. No action taken yet. No winds to anchor you. Just silence. And silence is where fear speaks the loudest. Your body is capable of rising, but your mind whispers its oldest lines. Stay. Not yet. Just a little longer. Soft words, but designed to keep you weak. The bed feels heavy because it carries your history. Every delayed morning, every broken promise, every time you surrendered to comfort. Those memories gather in the sheets and pull you back the moment you try to rise. Your brain is designed to protect what is familiar. Comfort is familiar. Effort is not. So your mind treats effort as danger and comfort as safety. That's why leaving the bed feels like stepping into a storm, even when the room is quiet. Resistance is strongest in the morning because emotions wake up first. Logic wakes slow. Discipline wakes slower. Emotion always gets the first word, and emotion exaggerates everything. A little tired becomes exhausted. A little discomfort becomes impossible. A little cold becomes too much today. Your mind also searches for identity as soon as you wake. It asks, "Who am I this morning?" And if your past is filled with slow starts and soft choices, your mind assumes you are still that man. It offers you the identity you have practiced most, not the one you want. This is why the first few minutes feel like a fight. You are not fighting the blanket. You are not fighting the cold. You are fighting the version of you that refuses to let go. The version of you that fears change more than it fears regret. Morning resistance is not weakness. It is identity preservation. Your old self trying to stay alive. And the older that identity is, the harder it fights. That's why some mornings feel heavier than others. You're dragging your past with you. The morning has no distractions to hide behind. No noise. No movement. No schedule yet. Just you and the truth of whether you will command the day or collapse back into softness. But that heaviness you feel is not a verdict. It is not destiny. It is simply accumulated softness. And softness burns when met with discipline. The moment you understand this, you stop fearing the morning and start shaping it. In Chapter 3, you'll confront the deeper truth, why you keep losing this battle, and what must die inside you for your mornings to finally be yours. Here is the truth, the brutal, unfiltered truth. You don't lose the morning because you are weak. You lose the morning because the older version of you still breathes inside your mind. He wakes up before you do. He speaks before you think. He negotiates before you act. And he is terrified of the man you are trying to become. Your morning battle is not between you and the bed. It's between you and your identity. The identity you have practiced for years. The one built from comfort, delay, and soft choices. Your identity speaks loudest when the world is quietest, and the morning is pure silence. No noise to distract you, no movement to hide behind. Just your thoughts. Raw and unfiltered. That is why the morning cuts deeper than any other moment. You think you are tired. You're not. You are resisting the death of the older you. The you who avoided difficulty. The you who collapsed under excuses. The you who feared becoming stronger because strength demands sacrifice. The old self does not want to die quietly, so it fights you in the only moment it still has control, the first minute of the day. Before you remember your power, before you remember your purpose, before you remember the man you are building, every morning you face a choice. Kill the old identity or feed it. Rise and let it starve. Sink and let it grow stronger. Every day you stay down, You teach your mind that the weaker version of you is still in charge. The morning is heavy because your history is heavy. Every time you delayed, every time you surrendered, every time you chose comfort over clarity, those choices did not disappear. They hardened into identity. And identity defends itself. This is why the first step out of bed feels like lifting a mountain. Not because your muscles are weak, but because your past is pulling you back. You are fighting gravity from inside your own skull. But here is the breakthrough. Your identity is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is not destiny. Identity is repetition. Identity is the pattern you reinforce. Identity is the sum of every tiny choice you make when the world is still asleep. The reason you keep losing the morning is not because you can't win. It's because you haven't made the decision final. You still leave room for negotiation. You give the old self a seat at the table. And as long as you negotiate, the older you will always win. Not because he is stronger, but because he is familiar. And the human mind always chooses familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth. In Chapter 4, you will learn the system. The three-pillar framework that kills negotiation, rewires identity, and makes rising a non-negotiable act of war. You don't defeat morning resistance by trying to feel ready. You defeat it by using a system stronger than whatever excuse your mind whispers when the world is still dark. There are 3 pillars, 3 disciplines, 3 tools that turn mornings from the moment you fear into the moment you master. The first pillar is immediate action. You must move before your mind wakes fully enough to talk you out of it. If you wait for thoughts to align, you surrender the battle. Action leads thought, never the opposite. Immediate action means this: your feet hit the floor before negotiation can begin. Stand first, think later. Every extra second in bed adds weight to resistance. Movement is your opening strike. The second pillar is environmental control. Your surroundings dictate your decisions far more than motivation ever will. A cluttered room creates hesitation. A soft environment strengthens excuses. A clean, clear, structured space makes discipline the default. Environmental control means designing your morning so the path of action is easier than the path of delay. Clothes prepared, tools positioned, lights placed to push you awake. The physical world must support the internal battle. Most men lose the morning because their environment is built for comfort, not clarity. The room whispers softness, and softness becomes identity. Change the room, and you change the behavior. Change the behavior, and you change the life. The third pillar is identity reinforcement. You act according to the story you believe about yourself. If you see yourself as someone who tries to wake early, you will fail. If you see yourself as someone who does rise, the mind aligns with that identity. Identity reinforcement means you repeat the same early actions until your brain accepts them as non-negotiable law. The new identity becomes instinct. Thoughts follow identity. Identity follows repetition. Repetition builds a warrior. Together, these pillars destroy morning resistance. Immediate action breaks hesitation. Environmental control breaks distraction. Identity reinforcement breaks the old self. This is the framework that turns mornings from chaos into command. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer discussions. You need a system that functions when feelings fail. A system that operates even when you don't want to. The man who wins the morning is not the man with the strongest emotions. He is the man with the strongest structure. A structure that endures even when his mind trembles. Now that you know the system, Chapter 5 shows you how these pillars work in real life, and how men sabotage themselves without even realizing it. Knowing the system is powerful, but seeing how it plays out in real life is what forces the truth to hit you in the chest. Most men don't lose their mornings because they are incapable. They lose their mornings because they misunderstand their own mind. Look at the man who stays in bed. He doesn't remain there because he lacks potential. He remains there because he believes the first feeling that appears when he wakes. A feeling that lies. A feeling that exaggerates. A feeling that was never meant to be trusted. Look at the man who opens his eyes and grabs his phone immediately. He isn't avoiding the morning. He's avoiding himself. He's drowning the silence before the silence exposes his lack of discipline. One swipe, and resistance wins. Look at the man who tells himself he will get up soon. Soon is resistance's favorite lie. It keeps him pinned between intention and action, where nothing changes and everything decays. Look at the man who needs to feel ready. He doesn't understand that readiness is an illusion. Action creates readiness. Identity creates readiness. Repetition creates readiness. But waiting for readiness creates nothing. Look at the man who gets up but moves slowly, dragging his feet, carrying the weight of hesitation in every step. He stands physically but kneels mentally. Resistance still controls him, just from a different angle. Look at the man who wakes early once and thinks the battle is over. He doesn't realize that discipline is not an event. It is a rhythm. And rhythms are built through collision with repetition, not through bursts of inspiration. Look at the man who prepares nothing the night before. His environment betrays him. His clothes are hidden, his tasks unclear, his space cluttered. He wakes into chaos and calls it a rough morning, not understanding that he designed the trap himself. Look at the man who wakes with a past full of broken promises. Every morning is a confrontation with the version of himself he never outran. The old identity tries to rise with him and drag him back into yesterday. Look at the man who never defines his standards. He negotiates every morning because he has never declared what is non-negotiable. Without internal law, every dawn becomes a debate, and debates are where warriors fall. Look at the man who blames the world for his slow start. Too tired, too cold, too early. He never realizes the world is not stopping him. His interpretation is. His story about difficulty is harder than the difficulty itself. But look also at the man who rises on time, daily, without emotion, without theatrics, without negotiation. His mornings are not glamorous, but they are disciplined, and that discipline shapes the rest of his life with frightening precision. In Chapter 6, you will learn the exact steps to turn every morning into a test you can pass. A test that builds identity, shapes discipline, and crushes the old self one sunrise at a time. Knowing the truth is not enough. Understanding the system is not enough. If you want to break morning resistance, you must apply what you know with force, with clarity, with no negotiation. Here is how you win the morning in the real world. First, interrupt the spiral instantly. The moment you wake and your mind whispers its excuses, move. Sit up, stand, place your feet on the ground. Action breaks hesitation faster than thought ever will. Second, destroy comfort cues. Remove the softness that keeps your mind weak. Blankets folded away. Phone out of reach. Room clean. Light on. Comfort feeds resistance. Clarity starves it. Third, command your body before your mind. Walk, even if you don't want to. Stretch, even if you feel stiff. Breathe deeply, even when your chest is tight. The body leads. The mind follows. Movement is control. Fourth, shrink the task. Don't think about the whole morning. Think about the next action. Stand, step, walk. Cold water. Small victories create momentum. Momentum kills resistance. Fifth, use cold exposure as a reset. Splash your face, Wash your hands. Let the cold shock burn through the fog in your mind. Cold resets the nervous system. Cold cuts through excuses. Sixth, apply the 10-second rule. If you think of an action you must do, begin within 10 seconds before the thought dissolves into hesitation. This rule alone can save entire mornings. Seventh, build a movement ritual. 10 slow breaths, 1 long stretch, a brief walk, a single punch to the training post. Something small but repeated daily until your brain recognizes it as an identity trigger. Eighth, speak with authority. Not positivity, authority. I rise. I act. I move now. Short commands that cut through noise and remind your mind who leads. Ninth, do one hard thing immediately. Not big, not long, just hard enough to wake your discipline. A cold splash, a deep squat, a firm stretch, a push against something heavy. Pain clarifies purpose. 10th, never return to the bed. Not to sit, not to think, not even for a moment. The bed is the battlefield you already survived. Never walk back onto the field you just escaped. 11th, lock the identity. Tell yourself, this is who I am, not who you want to be, who you are. Identity begins with language. Words become patterns. Patterns become instinct. Do this daily, and mornings stop being the enemy. The weight becomes lighter. The fear becomes smaller. The hesitation becomes quieter. And the man who once surrendered begins to rise before resistance even wakes. Now you understand something most people never learn. The morning was never your enemy. It was a mirror, a reflection of who you allowed yourself to be. But mirrors change when the man standing in front of them changes. And when you win enough mornings, something shifts inside you. Something final. Something irreversible. The voice that once controlled you loses its authority. The softness that once seduced you loses its appeal. The hesitation that once owned you loses its grip. You stop waking into fear and start waking into clarity. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become harder. A different kind of man rises when resistance no longer speaks first. Mornings begin to feel lighter. Not easy, just lighter. The weight doesn't disappear. You simply become someone who can carry it without shaking. The old self still whispers sometimes. He still tries. Old identities don't die gracefully. But now you recognize his voice instantly. He sounds weaker, smaller, foreign. Because the man you are becoming doesn't negotiate. He doesn't stall. He doesn't shrink. He rises. He acts. He moves before thought has the chance to betray him. Winning the morning has nothing to do with sunrise. It has everything to do with internal law. The non-negotiable standard. When I wake, I rise. A simple sentence. A brutal sentence. A sentence that remakes you. Discipline expands quietly. It moves from mornings to decisions during the day, to moments of weakness, to moments of stress, until slowly you begin to realize your mind is obeying you. This is the real victory. Not waking early, not standing fast, not splashing cold water or marching through fog, but becoming the man who does those things without hesitation, without debate, without needing to feel ready. The morning once swallowed you. Now it sharpens you. The silence once exposed you. Now it strengthens you. And the resistance that once defeated you has become proof that you are no longer the man who used to surrender. Your mornings are not accidents anymore. They are declarations. They are identity made visible. They are evidence of a war you chose to fight, and a war you began to win one sunrise at a time. Walk forward now, with a spine that doesn't bend, with a mind that doesn't fold, with a morning that doesn't own you. Because from this day forward, you rise first, resistance rises second, and that changes everything.